Hollywood is not really there to entertain you. Like, that's great that that happens, but propaganda is something that is important to all civilization.
People were whispering for years that Larenz Tate was being set up as Hollywood's ultimate propaganda pawn. He had the looks, the talent, the charisma. He had everything. But when he refused to play by their rules, that's when the machine turned against him.
I don't think that I'm underrated. I think I'm undervalued in Hollywood. And I think a lot of Black folks are undervalued, who put in the work, who put in the time.
What happened to him wasn't random. It was a cold, calculated move. So slick it took decades for people to catch on.
And you become a bit of a propaganda arm for the government. And in turn, they don't f with you.
Back in 1993, just 17 years old, Tate dropped one of the most unforgettable performances in cinema, playing O-Dog and Menace into Society. The role was so chilling, so real, it should have made him a superstar overnight. Instead, it locked him inside Hollywood's Typecast prison.
If you want to be able to make movies about certain subjects, you have to be willing to work with some people. That, you know, it'd be nice if you made it so that this is what we're trying to accomplish.
Suddenly, the industry had its dream set up. A young Black actor who could make violence look authentic, but without shaking white audiences out of their comfort zone. He wasn't challenging stereotypes about young Black men being dangerous. He was reinforcing them, role after role, and Hollywood loved it. The trap became clear when Tate tried to break out with The Inkwell in 1994. This time he played Drew, a middle-class teen navigating life and love. But instead of celebrating his range, critics trashed him. Reviews claimed he seemed uncomfortable playing an educated character. The message couldn't have been louder. Stay in your lane. Then came South Central, a Fox series with real weight, Tate as Andre, a layered character with both strength and vulnerability. Black audiences connected with it instantly. Finally, some real representation. But after one season, Fox axed it, blaming budget cuts.
Work twice as hard to get, twice as less as our counterparts, right? And that being said, it is the same way. We're not valued the way I believe we supposed to be valued.
Meanwhile, white-led shows with less impact and weaker ratings were getting renewed year after year. That cancellation wasn't about numbers, it was a warning shot. Hollywood had rules for Black actors, and they were brutal. You could play the thug, the villain, the criminal, but the second you tried to bring real social depth to the screen, doors slammed shut instantly. By the time Dead Presidents dropped in 1995, Larenz Tate was already battling the system's narrow vision. Critics admitted he had proven he could be sympathetic, layered, even heartbreaking. But here's the crazy part, he had to prove it. As if the idea of a young Black man being more than a stereotype was a stretch for Hollywood. Each powerful performance only led to the same trap: indie projects, tiny budgets, little marketing, and even less visibility. No matter how good he was, the cycle repeated. And then came Love Jones in 1997. This was supposed to be the game changer. Tate as Darius Lovehall wasn't just believable. He was iconic, smooth, soulful, real. The movie turned into a cultural reset. It gave Black audiences the kind of sophisticated romantic story they had been starving for. It positioned Tate right on the edge of A-list stardom. But instead of elevating him, Hollywood got scared.
So like at that point, after they saw the success of it, which is the film that you're like, all right, now I know what my worth is. Here's what I'm negotiating for this film.
It's probably Love Jones.
Okay.
Because at that time, I had some success with the other films, and I knew that I could have some more negotiating power.
For the first time, Tate had leverage. He had the power to demand better roles, fair pay, and real say in the stories he wanted to bring to life. That's when the resistance got ruthless. The industry was fine with him staying a side character, a face in the background, or a lead in small films that barely got promo. But the second he moved like a true leading man, they came down hard. When his agents approached New Line Cinema after the success of Love Jones, asking for higher pay based on the cultural and financial impact of the film, studio president Mike DeLuca shut it down. He claimed Tate was pricing himself out of the market. But let's be real, this wasn't about budgets. Love Jones was shot cheap and made back its money while building a loyal fan base that still quotes the film to this day. The math didn't lie, but Hollywood had a different formula in mind.
He was like, listen, I don't think that's not what we're gonna do. And I was like, nah, I think I deserve it. You know what I mean? I'm gonna come in, I'm gonna do the work, and we'll be okay. And he was like, honestly, I would love to give you that number, but we just don't. It's just not in the budget.
White actors with half Tate's receipts were getting $10 to $20 million paychecks for fluffy rom-coms. But when it came to black actors, suddenly paying them what they deserved was impossible and too risky. The sabotage wasn't loud, it was slick and quiet. Instead of pushing Tate into bigger budget romances, they shoved him into supporting roles behind white leads or handed him indie projects with no marketing muscle. And when he didn't settle, that's when the whispers started. Suddenly, Tate was difficult. Suddenly, he was ungrateful. The game was rigged. And to make things worse, another trick popped up. The so-called international distribution excuse. Every time Tate's reps asked for back-end participation on overseas sales, studios fed them the same lie. The industry's favorite excuse? Black actors don't sell overseas. Studios pushed the lie that international audiences had no interest in black romantic leads. But when Larenz Tate started traveling abroad, the truth shattered that myth. He found fans in Europe, Asia, and Africa who were obsessed with Love Jones. Audiences who barely spoke English were quoting Darius's poetry, word for word. The message was obvious. This whole black actors can't sell internationally story was a calculated scam designed to lock black talent out of Hollywood's most profitable markets. And then came the follow-up trap. After Love Jones, Tate landed a supporting role in Kevin Costner's 1997 big-budget flop, The Postman. It bombed so badly it didn't elevate his career at all. Then in 1998, Why Do Fools Fall in Love gave him a juicy role as Frankie Lyman. His performance was electric, but the film was barely marketed, buried before it could shine. By the early 2000s, the pattern was impossible to ignore. Every move around Tate's career felt strategic. He was being offered roles that showcased his brilliance, but blocked his rise to real power. Hollywood wanted him visible, but not too visible. Respected, but never in full control. Valuable, but never allowed to cash in. It was the perfect containment strategy. Since they couldn't erase his talent, they decided to weaponize it. Instead of letting him flourish as a romantic lead or layered hero, they funneled him into one box villains, criminals, and compromised figures.
At the time, I'm trying to think, as you're coming up, nobody's putting you onto the game? Is anybody aware of this, or is this?
I'm sure they are, but a lot of the information is not being passed around, right? And if the information is being passed around, we don't know how to utilize it. And I think that was part of one of the things when you say the mistakes.
And this wasn't accidental, it was tactical. By the early 2000s, Hollywood had perfected the system. While Tate was being shoved into these dark roles, other black actors were facing the exact same limitations. But because the industry kept them isolated, no one could compare notes, no one could push back together. Each actor was forced to struggle alone, taking lowball deals and repeating the same mistakes. Divide and conquer in action. The evidence is written all over Tate's filmography from this period. In 2003's A Man Apart, he played a DEA agent who turns rogue. In 2004's Oscar-winning Crash, he was a carjacker delivering razor-sharp commentary on racism while at the same time reinforcing the very stereotypes he was criticizing. Then in 2006's Waist Deep, once again, he was shoved into another criminal role. And the thing is, Tate nailed every single one of these performances. He was magnetic, layered, unforgettable. Audiences connected with his characters, even sympathized with them. But the bigger picture? Every role kept pushing the same tired message that black men were dangerous, unstable, and criminal by nature. Hollywood had found a way to use Tate's brilliance against him. The system had made its point loud and clear. Black masculinity in Hollywood's eyes was always tied to criminality. The clearest example, Crash, the so-called progressive film that snatched an Academy Award. Larenz Tate played Peter Waters, a carjacker with razor-sharp monologues about racism and police brutality. On the surface, it looked like a role that let him speak real truth. But dig deeper, and you see the trap. The character's crimes undercut every powerful point he made. It was a mirror of Tate's entire career, using his brilliance and charisma to highlight injustice, while still feeding Hollywood's favorite stereotype, that young black men are dangerous.
Care how people feel about the ritual. It's about just following the ritual work.
Yeah.
And so you can fool yourself into thinking there isn't one, but the evidence will be clear.
By now, the pattern was undeniable. Every time Tate crushed a role, instead of doors opening to heroes or leaders, the offers piled in for more villains and criminals. His gift for depth and authenticity had been flipped into a weapon against him. What should have been his strength became his cage. Television carried the same agenda. On X's Rescue Me, Tate played firefighter Bart Black Sean Johnston. On paper, it was layered, a man trying to move forward while haunted by a criminal past. But even here, the stereotype never let up. The subtext screamed, no matter how hard a black man tries to be good, his criminal nature is always ready to resurface. That wasn't representation, it was containment. And the fallout wasn't just artistic, it was financial. Villain roles didn't come with back-end deals, toy lines, or billion-dollar franchise opportunities. Heroes built empires, villains got a quick check, then disappeared. Tate stayed working, yes, but never on projects that let him build generational wealth or secure the freedom to choose his own path. His brilliance kept him visible, but never powerful. By the 2010s, a new hope seemed to arrive. Streaming platforms like Netflix promised a revolution. No more Hollywood gatekeepers, no more excuses about overseas audiences or budget constraints. They bragged about giving artists direct access to the world, about celebrating diversity and authenticity. For Larenz Tate, this looked like a genuine lifeline, a chance to finally break free from the roles that had defined and limited him for decades.
Would negotiate points, we was really banking on the box office success. And once the switch happened, we didn't really understand. No one understood what that would look like and how these deals would be put together.
Streaming needed endless content and bold voices, and Tate had both. The dream was simple: global platforms, direct audiences, real representation. After years of being boxed in, it seemed like his moment had finally come. The move to streaming was supposed to change everything. But for actors like Larenz Tate, it just created a new kind of trap. Back in the old Hollywood system, numbers didn't lie. If a film made $50 million, that was public record. An actor could point straight at the receipts and demand fair pay. But with streaming, the numbers are locked away like classified files. Platforms guard their viewership data like it's a state secret. That means actors can't prove their worth, no matter how many fans are quoting them online or packing social media with love. This secrecy became the upgraded version of the old international distribution scam. Platforms could twist the data however they wanted, claiming a show was a hit when it suited them, or downplaying success when it came time to pay talent. And whenever Tate pushed back, pointing to fan reactions, online buzz, and cultural impact, executives hit him with the same cold line. Our internal analytics say something different. Translation: sit down and take what we offer. Then came the algorithms, another weapon in the system's arsenal. White-led shows were front and center, splashed across homepages, given endless promotion. Meanwhile, black-led projects were shoved into special categories, barely marketed, and often yanked from the platform after just a short run. It was containment by technology, quiet, subtle, but brutally effective.
That's what makes information so powerful is, you don't care how people feel about the ritual. It's about just following the ritual work.
Yeah.
And so you can fool yourself into thinking there isn't one.
Actors were expected to smile, show gratitude for the opportunity, and never question the machine. Complain, and suddenly you were difficult or unprofessional. That dynamic was on full display during Tate's 5-season run as Malcolm Khan on Showtime's House of Lies. He delivered fire every episode. Fans loved his character, critics praised his work. But when the show ended, No spin-off offers, no starring vehicles, no push to build on his momentum, just silence. His brilliance was used, but never invested in. The streaming boom had been marketed as a diversity revolution, but once the subscriber numbers were secure, the mask slipped. Those promises of new voices and authentic representation turned out to be a marketing strategy, not a mission. The money flowed back to the same handful of stars who guaranteed international licensing deals, while black talent kept getting boxed out with data-driven excuses. And the worst part, platforms could point to their mysterious analytics to back up any decision they made. Manufactured numbers gave them perfect cover to keep playing the same old game. Then, in 2017, a spark of hope. Tate joined power as Councilman Larenz Tate, a sharp, complex, ambitious character in one of TV's biggest cultural hits. After decades of being typecast and undervalued, it looked like Larenz Tate had finally landed the kind of role that matched his firepower. Fans were hooked, critics were impressed, and for the first time in years, Tate's career felt like it was on the edge of something huge. But when you peel back the layers of Councilman Larenz Tate, especially through the lens of Cat Williams' warnings, you see something chilling. This wasn't Larenz Tate's big breakthrough. This was Hollywood's most sophisticated trap yet. They handed him a role that looked powerful on the surface, but underneath was designed to reinforce every toxic stereotype about black political leadership.
Ghost, season 3, that's out, that's covered out. It's going to be an incredible season.
Councilman Larenz Tate.
Yes, Councilman Larenz Tate. There's a connection. And, can't give too much away, but I can say that we've elevated some things.
Listen to how Tate himself describes Rashad. Shenanigans, backdoor deals. He knows the character is built on corruption, manipulation, and the abuse of power. And yet, here's where it gets dangerous. Tate is so authentic, so magnetic, that audiences actually end up sympathizing with a man who embodies every negative cliche about black politicians. Councilman Larenz Tate is sharp, charming, ambitious, and completely corrupt. He bends the system for his own gain, stepping on the very communities he's supposed to uplift. For Tate, after decades of being sidelined, the role felt tempting, finally playing someone with real power. But the catch? That power was rotten to the core. And that's the sinister genius of it. While America was finally having serious conversations about systemic racism and the need for true representation in politics, power slipped in a narrative that confirmed the ugliest stereotypes, that a black man in politics can't be trusted, that if he gets into office, he'll sell out his people for personal gain. This is exactly the kind of setup Cat Williams warned about. Give a brilliant black actor a platform, showcase his talent, even pay him, but make sure the role feeds the very propaganda that justifies keeping black communities marginalized. It's a devil's bargain. Success for the actor, poison for the culture.
Definitely gonna, see Councilman Tate up to his shenanigans. Gotta do that. It wouldn't be. There's gonna be some
shenanigans.
Yeah, and some backdoor deals and some, some nonsense going on. And no, I'm excited about it.
Every single smart move Rashad made was poisoned by greed. Every show of compassion was revealed as a scheme. Every brilliant play in the political game was tainted by dirty money or shady alliances. The subtext screamed, this is what happens when black men get power. They abuse it. And then came the financial insult. At first, Tate wasn't even properly paid for the role. He admitted he was getting peanuts, barely anything once taxes and fees were stripped out. His own agents warned him against taking the part, telling him it wasn't worth it. But Tate saw something bigger. He believed in the potential and went around the system to negotiate his own deal. That survival move showed both his hustle and just how rigged the Hollywood pay scale remained, even for a star of his caliber. When power exploded into a global hit, Larenz Tate finally saw his paycheck climb, but the raise came with hidden strings. Suddenly, Tate wasn't just an actor. He was being paraded as living proof that the new Hollywood worked. He became the poster boy for the idea that streaming platforms had cracked open opportunities for black talent. Industry insiders pointed to him as if to say, see, the system works if you hustle hard enough. But here's the catch. His personal success was used to mask the brutal reality that most black actors were still locked out of the same opportunities. Tate's visibility became a shield for Hollywood, a way to dismiss ongoing struggles. If anyone complained about systemic barriers, the response was simple. Look at Larenz Tate on Power. What are you talking about? And yet, the global success of Power blew up one of Hollywood's longest-running lies. Remember the excuse that black actors don't sell overseas? Tate's character helped carry a series that became a worldwide phenomenon. Fans across Europe, Africa, and Asia couldn't get enough of him. The myth was dead, but by then, Tate was in his 40s, and the prime years of his career had already been wasted fighting fake narratives cooked up by the system. Looking back, the patterns are undeniable when you frame Tate's career through Cat Williams' warnings about Hollywood's control tactics. First, the typecast prison after Menace II society. Then, the systematic undervaluation even as critics praised him. The villain pipeline that weaponized his talent. The streaming revolution that turned out to be a slicker version of the same old exploitation. And finally, the power role that showed off his brilliance while still feeding harmful stereotypes about black leadership. None of this was random. It was calculated. A decades-long campaign to control one of the most gifted actors of his generation, using his own talent against him, all while Hollywood cashed in on the very performances that limited his power.
So 20 years ago, I knew that transgenders was going to be a thing. It wasn't because I was a prophet. It's just I had gotten so much information that I understood that things are secular.
Cat Williams wasn't some prophet predicting the future. He was spelling out what was already happening in plain sight. For Tate, the ritual wasn't wearing dresses or humiliating himself on screen. His ritual was silent and constant, accepting undervaluation. Every time he took a paycheck below his worth, every time he played another criminal instead of demanding to be cast as a hero, every time he was pushed into supporting roles while white peers with less talent got the spotlight. That was the system at work, conditioning him to survive but never to thrive.
And I think a lot of black folks are undervalued, who put in the work, who put in the time, who are certainly undervalued.
And that's the essence of Cat Williams' warning. This isn't coincidence, it's the point. Keep black talent just visible enough to sell tickets and keep audiences entertained, but never let them gain the financial freedom or cultural power to become truly independent. And the damage spreads beyond careers. When audiences constantly see black actors, no matter how talented, playing villains, criminals, or corrupt officials, it plants seeds. It quietly reinforces the idea that this is who black people are. That's not just entertainment, it's propaganda dressed up as art. When black romantic leads are treated like a rarity and black action heroes almost don't exist, the image of black masculinity gets locked into one distorted box. That's why the so-called international distribution lie hits even harder. It was one of Hollywood's greatest scams. For decades, executives convinced black actors that their work had no global value, using that excuse to cut them out of the most profitable revenue streams. Yet at the very same time, films and shows led by black talent were blowing up overseas, making millions for studios that never shared the wealth. Then came streaming, sold to us as a revolution, a level playing field. But in reality, it just created new tools for the same old control. Algorithms that claim to be neutral are wired with bias. Data analytics that promise clarity are actually more secretive than box office numbers ever were. And diversity initiatives, too often they're nothing but slick PR campaigns to dodge criticism while the system keeps operating as usual. The tragedy of Larenz Tate's career isn't that he failed because he didn't. For 3 decades, he's been working, delivering acclaimed performances, building a loyal fan base that spans the globe. The real tragedy is what could have been. What if the system had actually allowed him to flourish as the romantic lead, the action star, the A-list powerhouse he always had the talent to be? But Tate's story isn't just pain, it's also resistance. His decision to cut his own deal on Power showed that he wasn't afraid to step outside the rules. His openness about Hollywood's culture of undervaluation has pulled the curtain back, educating younger black actors about the game being played against them. And with his brothers, through their production company, he's been planting seeds for something bigger. independent alternatives that don't run through the same gatekeepers who tried to contain him. Larenz Tate's career is a case study in Hollywood's decades-long control system, a supremely talented actor who should have been one of the biggest stars of his generation, systematically steered into supporting roles and villain parts, while others with less skill were pushed into superstardom. The warning signs were always there. Cat Williams just had the guts to say it out loud. We should have listened. Anyway, that's it for this video. Don't forget to hit that like button, share this with your friends, drop a comment with your thoughts, and of course, subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.